speaking of returns from summer breaks, Congress just returned from theirs. But before they all headed back to work, or whatever it is they do on Capitol Hill, we caught up with Massachusetts Congresswoman Katherine. Representative, it's good to see you.
Thanks, Jim.
So you served, what, almost 2 years now?
That's right.
In what is generally perceived as maybe the most dysfunctional Congress in the history of the United States of America. Is that generally the
I think it's a title we've earned.
Okay, and it was at 9%, now it's up to 14% approval. It's good. Do you have any regrets? I'm serious about that. It's a tough place to work, no?
It is, and obviously going into Congress, I knew that I was going into a dysfunctional body, but I have no regrets. It's a place where I feel it's incumbent upon, especially the newer members, to find ways to make it work again.
Like what? How do you fix it? How do you make it work?
You know, I think you have to do it the old-fashioned way, make relationships, and you stand up for those core values that you have and the reasons that I was sent by the voters of my district, but you have to find maybe the 2% that you can agree on. And it's really about getting to know people of all different political stripes.
Yeah, I read about this bill I admire you for. I know you're doing with a Republican from Pennsylvania about homeless and foster kids and making sure they're in school. It's terrific, but I don't mean to disparage it at all. I think it's terrific. The small idea is you can pick somebody off here and there. You're a supporter of the Iran deal. The Iran deal now, apparently, the president's position is going to be sustained without one single Republican vote. Yeah. It's pathetic. I don't mean just on the part of the Republicans. It's a pathetic statement for America, isn't it? About the hyper-partisanship?
You know, to go back to the homeless and foster kids bill, the amazing thing about being in Congress, is that a smaller, discrete issue? It is. But if we can make a change for those kids, that affects millions of American families. And that's the power of Congress and what it should be doing. You know, that we're not going to have any Republican support for this deal, that we are making our relationship with Israel a partisan issue on many, many levels.
You just were in Israel, right?
I was.
Did they know you were about to say you're supporting this deal?
I think that they may have had some indication on that, but it really was a trip about getting to see Israel. We did meet with the Prime Minister. We met with many, many people. We met with Herzog, the President of Israel, and they were pretty uniform in their opposition. But I think they're also looking to know that America's going to be there for Israel moving forward, whether we approved the deal or we didn't.
How woman-friendly is Congress? So 20% of the United States Senate are women, and I think just under 20% of the House are women. Is it a woman-friendly place?
You know, I think I think that I've never been there before, but, you know, I think the more women we have, the more we're going to reflect America.
But is the answer no to my question then?
No, I mean, I have not found it to be unfriendly to women, but I think that there is a power structure that is predominantly male. I think, you know, we have Nancy Pelosi as our minority leader, which is a great example for women in the House, that if you work hard and you know, you can really accomplish anything you want to do. But we have to make more strides, and I think part of that on both sides of the aisle is getting more women elected.
Can we get back to dysfunction just for one more second? This Trump phenomenon that continues, and every pundit, with a few exceptions, said it's going to peak, it's going to peak, it's going to peak. In the last few days, he has the highest numbers he's had. There's a piece of what he's saying that actually is important for everybody to pay attention to, is it not? And it does relate to that dysfunction we're talking about, no?
I don't find anything as rhetoric around women or immigrants something that we should be paying attention to. In fact, I find it the opposite. I find it discouraging that he is speaking and getting such a following from a rather ugly segment of the Republican Party.
How about the impact of money? Then he talks about, I mean, actually, we're going to talk about your candidate in a second. He said the reason she came to my wedding, essentially, is because I paid her to come to my wedding. He didn't say it in quite those words, but pretty close, because I'm a contributor to Hillary Clinton early in her career. He's speaking truth on that issue as directly as anybody, is he not?
I think I would give him more credit if he was saying what we really need to be doing is not make this a billionaire's game, whether it's you're putting your own billions in as he is, or you're taking them from someone else as sort of your sponsor and mentor. We should be talking about Citizens United and how we get a citizenry to have a voice in our presidential politics.
Do you support a constitutional amendment to undo Citizens United?
I absolutely do.
Let's get to your candidate for a second. Why are you supporting Hillary Clinton?
I think that Hillary Clinton is one of the best qualified candidates we've ever had run for president. And what I admire about her is that she's speaking to the issues that matter to families in my district and I think across the country.
But if you look at, she was the United States Senator, she was the First Lady of the United States Senator, Secretary of State. What would you say are the two, I'm not talking about the message, what would you say are the 2 or 3 accomplishments in those many years that you can point to as she's somebody who can get things done?
I think that she was tremendously effective in the Senate, and I think that what I'm hearing from her, when, you know, it's not just messaging, it's really a commitment to saying we're going to have equal opportunity. Her work on college affordability, she's talking about the opiate crisis that is hitting Massachusetts and New England so hard. I don't hear that coming from other candidates, and I like Bernie Sanders. I agree with much of what he says, but I think she's uniquely positioned to be president.
When you saw that Quinnipiac poll, and they asked last week or 2 weeks ago, and they asked people to do a word association. I'm going to name a candidate, you tell me the first word. When it was Jeb Bush, interestingly, the first word was Bush. Donald Trump, arrogant. First word for your candidate was liar. Yeah. Her numbers on trustworthiness, honesty, are atrocious. Not only is that not an obstacle to her election, but even if she is elected, the whole thing is, you know it from is trust with your constituents. How is that not a huge problem for her?
I think that it is, if you take the email, the so-called email scandal, it's a huge distraction, but I think there is a very concerted effort to build just that sort of reputation around her. She obviously is going to have to work past that. And I think the way you do it is getting back to talking about those issues that are important to women, are important to American families.
Before you go, speaking of issues, last week, or a couple of days ago, the Attorney General said that there are 16 issues that are going to make it to the ballot if they get signatures. That's a big if, I should say, in November of 16. One that is likely to get signatures is phase 3 of marijuana. First, it was decriminalization of a small amount, then medical marijuana. This time, recreational marijuana use would be legalized. How will you vote?
You know, first, and I know that everybody says this, but the wording really does matter on this. And I do want to read it because I think we want to make sure that we're learning the lessons from Colorado, from Washington, on what worked, what didn't work.
How about conceptually,
how we're going to set this up. Conceptually, I don't think we should be arresting people and spending our incarceration dollars and law enforcement dollars on marijuana. But I think the details on this really do matter.
So if the wording is right, you're a yes.
If the wording is right, if the resources are there, and, you know, I think that I could get to yes.
It's great to see you, Congresswoman.
Thank you so much, Jim.